So let's talk about the photo element within Canva. Canva comes with some amazing free photos that you can use. In addition, though, I'm going to show you a number of other free resources online that you can use to find photos, download them, and then add them to Canva to use. What's really great too with the photos within Canva is it presents a bunch of options for you to edit them. So you can crop them, you can make some adjustments and edits, and even put them into kind of a laid out grid to do some different interesting things with cropping, like adding into a circle or a different type of shapes. So lots of really fun, useful things that you can do with photos. Let's dive into it. So let's start with a new design, and just for simplicity's sake, let's start with an Instagram post. So a nice square design. Here we go. So immediately we see we have all of our templates for the Instagram post, but we're going to be dealing with photos specifically. So here, search is going to be an incredibly useful tool for you. What do you want to create? So if we want to create something with a mountain, we just search mountain, and here they all are. Now, important to note, as you hover over top it, you'll see there's the free label. If they're going to charge you, there will be a little crown, and you just have to pay a fee for the photo. But I'll show you a bunch of free places to get photos as well. So these great photos, and there's two kind of behaviors for these photos. One would be just as an element. So if we click on this one, it is an element. So here we are, we can select it, much like we discussed in the interface tutorial. You have this secondary action item that pops up for everything we can do, and we'll cover that in a second. Of course, we can change the transparency, all that fun stuff. This is now an element. Another way photos work is as a background. So we have this canvas, right? So this main area, if we, as opposed to clicking on it, which brings it in, and gives us all these options for scaling, everything else. Again, I'll kind of deal with that a bit in future. If you click and drag it in and kind of keep it close to the edge, it's going to snap into the background. So now it's a background for the entire photo. If this isn't exactly the layout, what's really great is if you click on it, you can still make the adjustments. So it's sitting in the full background of the space. One click will bring up all the adjustments, so we can make some edits to it. If you double click, it's going to bring you into kind of a scaling effect. Specifically, you can now move it around, like if you want to feature more sky. You can also increase it. If you really want to show more sky, not much of the bottom, I can grab the corner here, click and scale, and it'll make it larger. What's really good to note is that when you use these corners, it will keep it in, it'll keep the right ratio, so it won't skew it. It won't like stretch it to make it too tall. So that's really useful for us. As you can see, if I'm trying to make it smaller and I try to bring it down, it's not going to let me go beyond filling it, so it only goes up. Way to resolve that is, just move it up a bit and then scale it down. Move it up a bit, click, and then bring it down. So it's still possible to edit it. You just have to, make sure you're grabbing the right space. Same here for the bottom. You could just do it that way. As soon as I get to the edge, though, you see it won't let me go any further. Okay, so that looks good to you. You can move that around. Lovely. We'll just hit done. And that's now as a background image. So for simplicity, I'm going to get rid of that one. Let's grab a different mountain photo, one that looks kind of clean without much editing to it. Although these all seem to be fairly nicely edited, but let's go ahead and grab this one of a mountain vista. Actually, tell you what, let's get one with an actual person in it. So, person sitting dangerously on the edge. Clicking into it. So again, this is the scale that we mentioned. Now that it's not the background, it'll allow us to go beyond and within it, the outside of the edge of the canvas. So you can see we can edit, we can position it, we can still have it cut off nicely, kind of cropping naturally from the size of our canvas, and that's very useful, right? And you can even make it the full size and now have it just kind of as the object. Now this is actually important to know. This is one thing I noticed with Canva. When you do make it that full size, it tends to snap it into the background as now a background image. So I've lost that ability to move it around. It's as if I've dragged it as a background image. So of course I can double click and make my edits. If that happens and you still want to move it around, remember undo. So just Control Z, or Command Z, or Z. I'm Canadian, so I say Z as opposed to Z. So apology for the translation. But keep doing undo and you'll be able to get back the photo. That I tend to wrestle with that quite a bit, so just be prepared to, if you need to do a couple undos, redos, and get things where they're located. But just know it's always possible. But as an object, you can move it around, scale it around. That's great. Tell you what, I'll just cut off, let's go ahead and cut off the two sides and have it stacked on top there. See how that feels for us. Click in, let's get into some of the effects. So contextual to this photo, when you click on it, you have these particular effects on it. Actually, I'm sorry, I'm going to cover one more thing because we're doing all of the, I already did all these scaling, so grabbing the corners, bring it around. Another way to crop it, if you click into it, you'll notice that you have on the sides these kind of long little tabs. So if you click on that and drag, that'll crop it, right? So we can make it like really thin, just kind of focus on the girl sitting here, and you could do the bottoms as well. Now, much like when it's the background photo, so now we've really kind of reduced it down. If you want to adjust it, double click, and that'll kind of open it up, and you can move the photo, scale the photo. So if we wanted to get rid of the person, and that would move it around there. So that is, you can simply undo if you just grab the outside. Oh, sorry, and actually, rather it's going to try to take up the entire space, but so you're probably better to bring in a different photo, or you can try to wrestle with it. So let me actually undo all the way back to when it was just a photo. So the corners allow you to scale, and the tabs on the side allow you to drag it. You'll notice as I come to the outside, though, it's going to try to fill up the space. It's not going to let you have empty space when you're using this tab. Okay, so there's a photo element. Great. Click on it. At the top now, the bar, the kind of action bar is contextual. If we click on effects, you can see a bunch of different ones you can apply. And you can hop into the individual ones to play around with them to see how they look. But if we try, let's say, for instance, color mix, we'll hit connect. So you have to kind of connect it to your, it's an app that kind of extends it. In this case, let's put a rainbow. There's the Arctic. So it's kind of like Instagram filters or filters on any photo application you might have used. You get these really kind of funky colors. Right, so lots of kind of interesting effects that you could play around with. And beyond just the initial whatever you click, as soon as it's selected, you'll notice that it has the little dials on it. If you click into that, that'll let you kind of play around a little bit within the general scope of that effect. So how noticeable is it? How subtle? And then, what color do you particularly want to choose? So that is one of many that you can choose. Go ahead and cancel that. Let's go ahead with duotone. Again, you got to kind of connect it. And that's just going to remove the colors except for two. It's going to try to just choose two colors. And again, if you want to, what's kind of nicer about this one is if you want to use your brand colors, you'll be able to import them here. And shadows, you can make blue, you can make just black, a different version of orange, lots of options for you. So as I said, we're not going to go through every single one of these, but just know that within effects, there's a lot of fun stuff that you can do with the photo. Tell you what, one more. I want to see pixelate. So make it as if it's in a video game character or an old school video game. And as you can see too, this is actually stacking atop one another, so it makes it even more interesting. So that pixelates it there. Let's start fresh with a new photo. I'll click on it and let's hit filter now. So effects, it's a bit more robust, kind of larger, bigger changes you can make. Filters, it's a little bit more basic, a lot more cleaner, like Instagram or Facebook one. As you can see, you just click on the various ones and decide, just like your Instagram, like which one do you want and how intense do you want it. So if you had some photos and you want it to kind of fade into the background or apply a certain text to it, or sorry, a kind of visual to it, or a little bit of kind of softening, the filters will help with that. Exactly like Instagram filters is the way to think about it. And again, I'll just delete that and start fresh here. Okay, so moving across, we have adjust. Now, in many ways, this is kind of creating your own filter or adjusting the actual colors and such from the photo. Tell you what, let's go ahead and make this bigger so we can see it. So I'll grab the corners and drag those around. Now we can see them. Now we've gone to adjust. And this one's really useful for if you want to make a photo black and white, you just come into adjust. Obviously, there's like filters that you could use. I mean, street and grayscale will do that for you. If you want to do it yourself and have a bit more control, you can come to saturation and just crank it all the way to the left. It basically just removes all color for it. Then you can make it really intense, the colors, contrast. So if you want to kind of gray it out or make it too sharp, And you can almost make your own filters. If none of the filters help you, or you want to make particular adjustments without Photoshop, that can work. Some of the really interesting, now that's just for the colors, which kind of mimics the filters. Where it really starts getting interesting is the tint, where you can like kind of change the color of it if you want to make it a little bit more like your brand. And as you can see, actually, if you have a particular number in mind, you can actually just enter the number as opposed to clicking and dragging. But where it really starts getting interesting here is with like the blur. So if you want to make it really sharp, if it's a little bit too hard, but a bit more interesting is the blur. So if you do something like, let's say we copy and paste, we'll get that roughly in the same spot, and then you crop it, and then you take that blur back down to 0. Only that slice would not be blurred. So I just duplicated it, cropped it, and then removed the effect. Let's get rid of that blur so we can better see the photo. X process, again, kind of plays just like a filter. Put that down to 0. And the vignette, we'll just add the outside darkness if you want to focus in on the center. So you can see how it just adds that kind of shadow to the outside of it if you want to bring the attention more into the middle. And that really helps if you're doing something like a full size one, so the outsides are kind of dark and the viewer's eye will be brought into the middle a little bit more. So that is the adjustments for the photo. Let's bring it back down to the top. And just bring it into middle. Now crop, I showed you one way to crop already where you can just immediately kind of grab the edges and move it around, so that's kind of a faster way to do it. If you do click it, you do have the crop option here. And instead of kind of grabbing corners or grabbing the sides independently, you can grab the corners here and put it. So it's just a bit more of a specific tool for doing the crops you might want to apply. Yeah, we can size it up. That'll look great. And tell you what, if we want her to instead face to the left, flip is going to help us with that. So just as the name would imply, it helps flip. Now if you want it to be upside down, you want to flip vertically. So now this is really crazy. She's on the other side of the world. So everything, just as soon as you click the photo, everything you can do to it is up in this top action bar, and there's a whole lot you can do with photos in adjusting it, applying blur, playing with the colors, or even applying different effects like pixelate or duotone. Lots of really fun, interesting things you can do and explore with. Now there's another part that I want to get into, which is called the grids. So grids are shapes that your photos will fit into. You can think about a photo collage where maybe there's different sizes or they're kind of layered. Grids will have those options, and then you'll just drag photos inside of it. So you can imagine if you wanted like a 3-panel of different photos, you can obviously just take the photo, 1, 2, 3, crop them, place them, but grids represent a really fast way to do so. I'll be covering them a bit more in the elements part of the lesson, but it's worth a mention here because it's so closely tied to photos. And same with frames actually too. It's the same idea where it's shapes you can put photos into. So let's get started with that. Let's look at the grids. In the example I said we had 3 panels. Let's add that. So here they all are, the whole ton, and you can get into an absolute ton of photos, almost like a comic book or various other ideas. Let's start with 3. 1, 2, 3. I'm going to go ahead and scale it. I'm pressing Alt as I scale, and that adjusts it based on the center as opposed to just the corner. If I click and drag from the corner, it brings it down to the other corner. If I press Alt, it'll do it based on the center. So it's just kind of a faster trick there. 3 panels, 1, 2, 3. We come back to the photos, and now we can drag anything we want into it. So if we're kind of keeping a mountain theme, just click it into the particular panel you want, and that's where it'll be placed. 1, 2, 3. Now, much like everything else with the photos, when it's been cropped or adjusted, you can click into it and adjust where it sits. Right? In addition to, if you select that particular photo, you're going to have access to all of the adjustments. So if this one we want it to be zero saturation, this one a little bit more, and then the final one's super colorful, you can play around with that, or adjustments. So clicking once will give you all the actions for that particular one. Double clicking will bring you to the full photo where you can scale it, size it, reposition it as you like, and that's within the 1, 2, 3 grid that we found within Elements. Elements, Grid. In this case I clicked See All so I could kind of see a big photo. Now if you want to adjust the spacing of everything, you can click into any of the photos, and on the top on your action bar, remember it's always going to be when you click into an item, what you can do to it will be in this action bar. So it's super useful that way. So we've clicked into this, we click spacing, and this will adjust it for the entire grid. So if you want a bit more of a space, you can click within any of the photos and then adjust it. So none at all, way too many. 1, 2, 3. So I had selected that one photo, click delete the whole thing. I'd meant to delete the grid. Now let's do another one just real fast. There we go, that's kind of a cool layout. I'll click the corner, I'll hold Alt, so it brings it down all together. I will close out the grids. I'll go to my photos, and let's go back to my favorite, coffee. So we have the beans, which turn into various types of delicious coffee to drink. 1, 2, and 3. There we go. So grids, super useful. Now along the same vein is frames. So frames, as opposed to being kind of a structured box type element cut up into many ways, it's instead kind of unique, interesting shapes, and in fact even some devices which are kind of cool. But that's the obvious one with a circle, which look great. Let's just drag that same coffee one in there. So interesting if you want to have the circle. I'm going to just put a bunch of pages so we can kind of rapid fire put them in. Some irregular shapes, and even if you want to show something on a phone or a laptop. And these ones are especially cool, kind of like the swoops and swirls. Like these are a lot of fun. I'm going to come back to each one of these and add photos, but just wanted to show it quickly. Here's some donuts and shapes which are kind of cool. Which actually, let's do one and pair it with what we learned about layers to have some fun with that one. Okay, so various shapes. Let's find a really nice coffee photo and put it into a bunch. So a kind of a guaranteed seal type of feel with the nice rounded edges. Got a slanted design. So that one's especially cool if you kind of bring it all the way across. So just create some kind of dynamic shape within it. And these are frames that we got from the Elements tab. We've gone back to the photo to find our nice coffee photos to drag within it. Tell you what, let's go back to search. We're under photos. We're going to search for coffee, if I can spell it correctly. There we go. We just get different ones. So we got a various shape. Now all of these work exactly the same, where this is where the element is. If I click and I go to the top, I see all the actions I can take against it. Double click into it, and now I can move it around however I want to do that. So in case I want to have some more shapes and items. Next we have the phone. So if we place, you can imagine almost like an app or a website snapshot, or maybe your Pinterest account put into a phone to demonstrate it being used. Same with the laptop within a laptop, a bit of inception for us. Again, double click into the photo, and then scale it however we want. Make any adjustments we want to. And these really nice swashes, like it makes a really cool dynamic shape. You can imagine that against kind of a colored background. So if I click into the canvas and I go to the top left here, I can choose a background on the top. Imagine that as a color, and it's as if it's been scraped away to show the photo underneath. And just for these last ones here, as in just scraped off of the, we're like scratching away to see the design hidden behind, or the photo hidden behind. And lastly, so this is the donut. So this would be kind of interesting if we wanted to have coffee beans, and then because we know layers, we can place something behind it. So if we had a, let's find a picture of somebody smiling. Oops, that was a, let's find a free one. Let's crop it so it's just the face. Let's send that to back. And now we've made a frame with the person looking within it. So lots of goofy little fun things that we can do because we are combining a number of our lessons. Now let's say you're working on a design and you just can't find the perfect photo to use within it. Canva's got some beautiful, great free photos, but maybe for some reason you just can't. Let's say we're trying to find a picture of a lake, and for some reason none of these are quite right for us. We don't like those photos. Not a problem. So I'm going to give you 3 free websites that you can download any photo you want and use it anywhere completely free. So this could be for your personal projects, business projects, websites, anything. Completely free, gorgeous photos. So the first one is unsplash.com. So you'll come here and you're able to look through collections. You can search. You can scroll on the Discover page to find something perhaps that's kind of interesting. An amazing resource for free photos. So if we went to the top and we did our lake search, you'll find it here. So it suggests some kind of sub-categories you could consider, but otherwise just showing you beautiful photos, stunning, really high quality, an incredible, impeccable quality. You can download full resolution photos as well. In addition, you'll see that you'll have related. So if you kind of get down a track of what might be a good photo, and if you get all the way to the bottom of this pop-up, often you'll see a collection if it's in any. Let's try to find one of those quickly here. Doesn't seem to be shown there, so let's open this into a new tab and see if it'll give us the collection that it might be in. There we go. Okay, so instead, so if you click into the actual page for the photo, going down below, you'll see related photos, so photos that are kind of similar. If you want something slightly different, at the very bottom, you'll see some of these photos are in collections of other like photos or interesting photos that kind of have the from the same artist or the same kind of vein. So really beautiful, interesting photos. That's unsplash.com. Completely free to use the photos. Another one to consider is Pixabay. Exact same idea, just completely free photos. Search, find, when you do click into something, you'll find related photos on the right side. Do be careful, the photos directly below by way of sponsorship are from Shutterstock, so those are paid images. Now if you see those, of course consider buying them because supporting photographers are wonderful. But beautiful free photos to use. The additional benefit here is you can actually get videos as well as vectors, illustrations, and videos. Vectors are graphics that you can scale as small or big as you like. And you can upload those into Canva as well, so that's a great place if you want to get those or illustrations, but you can also search for videos. So in our favorite coffee example, you'll have any number of great videos you can download for free. So there's coffee cup blowing some smoke, you have beans falling. That's amazing. So that is pixabay.com. And the last one is Burst from Shopify. Now this one's particularly interesting because they take their own photos. So this set of photos is a bit more unique than the other ones. Sometimes you'll see some overlap between some of the other photo sites. This one's completely unique to this website for the most part, and it's really, again, high quality, super interesting, beautiful photos that you can use completely for free. So if we look in this collection of nature and landscapes, we can browse through and grab any of these photos, which we can then download and then upload to Canva. So all you'd want to do if you want to upload a photo is you'd come over here to Uploads on the left side, and you can say Upload a image or video. And then simply, here's one that I had uploaded or downloaded and uploaded previously. Nice yellow one with cans. So that is unsplash.com, pixabay.com, and burst.shopify.com to find a beautiful design for use in your work. So that's photos. Some really beautiful, amazing photos that you can use in any of your designs. Place them, scale them, crop them, or put them into a grid where you can choose some alignment of some square alignment and have the photo kind of cropped and placed for you to create great layouts, beautiful effects, and great designs for your work. And frames and number of shapes, unique and interesting, to really extend the type of designs you can output. So lots of fun to have with photos.